Ollie, listen, thank you ever so much for joining us today. Always pleasure to work with Pearce. Brilliant company, and we've really enjoyed the journey. And today is really an exploratory chat about what your journey was like with us, and how you found the process and what you're seeing from the results. So the first question, I guess, is, has partnering with Sustained Commercial Solar led to any significant financial benefits to the company, either through increased revenues or increased profits, reduced cost, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, it was a no-brainer for us. We were looking to explore the solar route sort of October last year now, when sort of the Ukraine crisis came about, and our energy prices sort of went from 20p a kilowatt up to sort of 76p a kilowatt. So we were looking at eye-watering rates. And when we're an energy-intensive company anyway in the recycling sphere, you know, we've got balers, we've got shredders, we've got incinerators, we've got all sorts of bits of kit that draw insane amount of energy. So we were looking to offset some of those costs, and the logical route was with solar. So we sort of going down that with Sustain and with yourself, Yanni, and yeah, glad we did, because we're now probably saving about a third now with our solar on all sites. And when we're talking about bills of over £1 million, you're talking hundreds of thousands each year on savings. So you know, it's meant that the payback on our systems within a few years. So it's been a brilliant journey. And no, I've loved it. I've got a bit of an interest in sort of energy myself, so I've had a bit of a personal interest on the project as well. So no, it's been brilliant.
Great. Listen, really glad to hear that it's working for you. And as you say, the energy crisis affected lots of different businesses, lots of different sectors in all sorts of ways. Yours, that example you give there, is quite an extreme one. And I've seen it certainly in the leisure sector, exactly the same thing. It went their energy costs went from circa 10 pence a kilowatt hour to 70, as you've said, and they went from spending 15,000 a month on electric to 110,000 a month, and it was just unsustainable and absolutely eye-watering. I mean,
it's putting companies under, Yanni, is the short answer.
Yeah, we've seen a stabilisation in the market now. And the cost is now the cheapest rate today. I spoke to an energy firm this morning, as I do every morning, is 28 pence a kilowatt hour. That's where it's at. That's where it's going to stay we believe, for the next 5-10 years. It's going to go up again in April, we believe, possibly sooner, but it's going to stay around this level for the foreseeable. So hedging and future-proofing via clean energy is a really strategic way of managing one of the biggest costs in your business.
It is. It is one of the, like you say, it is the largest cost of our business. You know, so it's saved us silly amounts, really, and it enables us to invest in other areas of the business.
Absolutely, and we see, you know, that energy is, if not the second, it's generally the third, at least the third biggest cost in a company's business, behind staff and rent, lease, and then energy. And in some more energy-intensive industries like yours, it's either one or two biggest costs.
I mean, we're even starting to explore now, as the nature of our game, our biggest cost is on transport. And our yard vehicles and operating our yard. So we're out now even exploring electric forklifts, electric moffets, electric shovels and things like that. And that's obviously all feeding it in through our solar systems.
Exactly. And if you're running those systems off the grid, it's just eye-wateringly expensive. So it's great that it's working as well as it is for you. So just briefly, what is your business, and what's your industry, and how do you fit into that business, Ollie? Yeah,
so we're Pearce Recycling Group as an entity has been around since about 1870. So we're an old recycling company, all family driven. You know, we are a total waste management solution to companies essentially. However, we've got sort of spin-offs and little companies here and there that look to explore sort of waste paper, confidential paper, the sort of recycling, the reprocessing of those materials, sending them out in shipments, sending them across the globe for them to be reprocessed. And then we take council work, we take mixed recycling in from councils, and that goes to sort of our head office over in St Albans. And then we have sorting facilities that sort those sort of mixed recycling out into their different streams that we can sell on through the revenues.
Okay, brilliant. And do you think, thanks for that background, and do you think it was really the energy crisis that prompted you to look at renewables, or was it any other factors?
Well, we as a recycling company, we're trying to promote this sort of green ethos from an outsider's point of view. We are recycling, and it's not great that a lot of our sort of energy is coming from the grid. So that there was sort of a bit of a personal drive onto it, as well as an economic drive that's sort of been clearly driven from the Ukraine crisis. But then even before that came about, we had solar installed on our sites, but it was just never a priority to flood the sites with solar. But when that came about, there was no reason for us not to just fit as much solar on our roofs as we possibly could. And that's what we did.
yeah, and that's the same for so many of my clients. They may have had a very small part of their business to tick an ESG box historically, but then realise actually there's some significant savings to be made. I mean, we come up against objections day in, day out of it doesn't work, it's too good to be true, it's unreliable, the return on investment's too long, requires constant maintenance. What would you say to some of those objections?
Oh, I would disagree massively with them. I mean, that is genuinely what I thought first of all. It's like when we're looking at paybacks within 2 years, I'm going, it's not possible. That is too good to be true. But then when you run the numbers, that is what you're saving, and it's a no-brainer, and it was a no-brainer for us. And I never turned back on it. I'm really glad we went through with it.
Yeah. Okay. Look, we've seen over the course of time in 2010, we've seen output go up massively on panel generation and costs go down. So in 2010, we were seeing the output of a panel was about 100 watts. Today, the same size panel, you're getting 420 watts out of it. In 2010, the cost of a watt of energy was £1.65. Today, it's less than 25 pence. So it's a great scenario to be in, and that's why I guess the solar market has opened up so much more viably for customers, clients like you. It's ticking lots of boxes. It moves companies towards the net zero piece. It saves them a lot of money. So it seems very much in line with the global narrative. Is that what your experience?
It is, massively, and we're getting more and more companies that are starting to require companies that they work with to report on their carbon footprint and their carbon emissions. And although we're sort of on the cusp from a governmental legislation point of view to be reporting on our carbon footprint, it's bound to come into action. We're predicting in the next few years that it will become part of legislation for all companies to be reporting on their energy usage. So we're almost getting ahead of the game on that as well. While our energy crisis is still in full force, to get that solar installed. So now we're looking at ways to report on that energy. We're getting external auditors come in, and obviously the first thing they look at is how are you mitigating your consumption, and then we can provide them with that data of our solar panels. That's, like I said, is cutting our off-grid consumption by a good third. So
it overlays it overlays so many different areas of a business's considerations. Like you say, customers are becoming more aware of green credentials. We've got COP28 in Dubai next month. It's there's an awful lot of conversations constantly around electrification, decarbonisation, net zero, and this just plugs very much into that. So I'm glad you're experiencing exactly those results, and it's benefiting you commercially as well. I mean, why did you choose Sustain as a partner out of interest?
We got recommendation from Sustain as well. A very professional group of people. So I have a few people that I work with through the university, and actually my stepfather has communication with yourselves as well. So it's just a no-brainer to go through the recommendations. There's plenty of companies that offer the solar panel, but I wanted a bit of a personal experience and working with people that I can trust and get on well with.
Okay, and what's your experience been like? What was the journey like with us?
It was really good. Everyone acted very professionally. With us being a recycling company, our yards are very busy, and it's a technically difficult install. We're not an office block. We've got warehouses, and we've got very busy yards. We've got traffic going through them, and the staff are very accommodating, working around that, exploring different options, even on pitches, and exploring different roofs that we could install on. And I'm not an expert on that, and the expertise was provided with that. Yeah.
I mean, look, it's always the biggest consideration for us once we engage in a project to ensure minimal disruption. And we work around. And there's lots of different environments we work in, whether it's leisure centres or care homes or operational yards like yourselves. There's lots of activity and lots of consideration. So we try and ensure that there's minimal disruption to all day-to-day activities.
Yeah, amazed at how quick the install was. You know, from start to finish, we were exploring the idea, and it felt like a few weeks later we were generating electricity. So no, it was a really nice, really good experience, Yannick. Really, really nice.
Good. Ollie, listen, you've kind of already answered the question. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our solution? And if another company's thinking about looking at solar, what would you say?
I'll give Sustain a 10, Yanni. Absolutely brilliant experience. I'd recommend it to anyone. And you know, you've only got to look at the cost and the payback, and it's a no-brainer for a lot of commercial business like ourselves, especially when you're an energy-intensive company. You know, as long as you've got the capital to invest in that solar, I would never turn back on that idea.
Well, we've actually since we delivered your projects, we've actually got some really interesting funding models as well,
really?
now, which means that it doesn't
more accessible.
It doesn't even mean you need to capex it. It makes it a lot more accessible. It's paid for via savings. But listen, the way you did it via capex is always the biggest saving. So that's if you can, it's the best way to do it. But we have got other options as well. But look, Ollie, as always, absolute pleasure speaking to you. And
no, you too, Yanni. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.